All right, so now what we have is a 5-foot modifier, 5-foot Octabox. Again, you could use a 5-foot or 60-inch umbrella. Very similar light. On the umbrella, you might want to put a diffusion panel on it. It's going to give you a little bit softer light. So we're going to shoot about 2.5 feet, somewhere around there to start with. It's almost kind of where we started with the beauty dish. Maybe not quite as close, but I'm going to show you how soft this is, and we're going to back it up. Now you can see here, I actually have my octo pretty much sitting on my lens. That's kind of how I do that. I want it as tight as I can, and then I get the least amount of shadows on her face. So let's try this. Here we go. Same kind of, we're going to do the same kind of look so you guys can kind of get an idea of the shadows under the chin, the lips, the nose, the eyes are much softer. So let me get my fill card. We're going to put that right underneath, right about here. Okay, just start out straight on. So I want to see exact opposite, or the difference right there. Let's see. Oh, this is beautiful. Again, the fill card really does its job of just sort of filling underneath everything. This looks great. Now let me see if I can go a little tighter. I'm just going to zoom in on the face, and I'm just going to see I'm at about 50. So let's just try one really tight. So I have it. Maybe we'll do this as our retouching right there. Perfect. All right. So that is the 5-footer at about 2.5 feet. So let's back it up. And again, I told you before that I kind of rule of thumb is a 5-footer at about 5 feet. So let's try that. That's a good starting place. We moved it in because I wanted to show you how soft it is close. So let's go raise it just a little bit here. So we're about 5 feet from the model. I got to compensate for my backing it up. So I'm going to give it about a stop. And I think we're just going to go output at F or 4. See what happens. Now, we'll see these side by side, but you'll see that on the background on that one, right out of from the start, it's a lot lighter gray than when I had the beauty dish at, say, 2.5 feet. Immediately, it gives me a lighter background. Now, if I want a darker background, I'm going to have to do a couple things. One is I can move my model, my camera, my light away from this sweep. It'll cause it to get darker. Or, in my studio, what I do is I have a light gray that I will drop down to get a little bit darker value in the background. Because I do like a sort of a 50%-ish type gray is what I love. Maybe a little lighter than that, but that's kind of my favorite in terms of shooting a model on a sweep. So this should be a little bit lighter when it comes to the background. That is perfect. That is what I would call, for me as a photographer, an artist, about where I want to be in terms of value on her skin. There's still detail in her skin, but I'm pushing the limits of that. And you can see that even just her collarbones and all that value is changing. That's what I'm looking for, a value change in the skin. And so that gives me depth. The more value change I can show, the greater depth that it reveals. And again, we're working with, eventually it's a 2-dimensional surface. We want to give it kind of a 3-dimensional feel. So let's do a couple more like that. So I have these. Okay, I'm going to bring this up a little bit right there. Good. All right, now we're going to go back to, let's say, we're going to go about 7-8 feet back. And I'm going to raise a little higher this time. That's going to give me a little bit more shadow. The angle about similar to what I had before. So we need to go up in power. Let's try right there. Now this lens is only, I can go 70 millimeters, so it's not going to be as long, but I can get an idea here. And there we have it. Beautiful. Again, it's a little harsher than what I had before, So, but it's really lightening the background. Now, for my taste, it might be a little too much, too light in value. And again, I can either bring her away from the sweep or add a gray. If I was in a studio where I had a gray sweep, I could do that. But that's 5 feet. No, that's about 7 feet, 8 feet from my subject. Maybe even more than that. Might be about 9 feet with a 5-foot octo. And again, this is good for group shots. So if you have 2 or 3 people, even you could probably get away with a group of 5 pretty easily. So it's a good choice for a modifier choice. So now let's move to our Big Daddy, the 7-foot, and I'll show you how I use that.